When I was 6 years old, my father, who was in the United States Air Force, was stationed in Upper Heyford in the UK. We lived in a village in Warwickshire in a 150-year-old house that had very old wooden floors that were uneven and would creak with every step. One day I had a friend over, and we thought to go upstairs to my room and play. My room was the first room along a hallway at the end of the stairs. The other rooms on the hallway were for storage, and at the end of the hall, a stairway that led up to the attic. My friend and I took turns rolling my Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars down the hallway outside my room towards the stairs to the attic. Because the floors were uneven, the cars would go about 3/4 of the way down the hall. We kept going into my room to find more toys that we could roll down the hall, and came across a toy motorcycle about the size of an adult's hand, but had square-edged tires, so it was capable of standing by itself. When we rolled it down the hall, it went all the way down to where the attic stairs were and toppled over on its side. We went into my room again to find more cars, and when we got back into the hallway, I looked to the end of the hall and saw the motorcycle. It was standing straight up facing towards my room. I asked my friend if he saw it fall, and he confirmed that he saw it fall down and that it had been facing the attic stairs. He had been with me the whole time looking for cars to roll down the hall, so I know he didn't move the motorcycle. I called my mum to see if she was there, and she responded from downstairs. My dad was still at the Air Force Base. If she or anyone had come up the stairs, we would have heard them as the floors creak. Our dog was downstairs with her, and if he'd have come up, I could have heard his nails clicking on the wooden floor. To this day, 40 years later, I have no explanation for how the toy that was on its side turned upright and reversed without making a sound. I went cruising around in Hurricane Sandy. I enjoy going out in bad weather for some reason, as it's a cheap thrill. But I saw the number of trees down and leaves everywhere. It quickly went from this is cool to holy crap, it's a really dumb decision and I could die. I drove 20 minutes to find my friend's house at 3 or 4 a.m, only to turn around when her mother wouldn't let her out the house. I drove around in the next hurricane too. My friend's girlfriend and I went to get cigarettes, and while I was creeping down a road with my head out the window looking at a fallen tree, a downed power line smacked right off the windshield in front of my face. I saw it out the corner of my eye at the last second, as this dark shape rushing at my face, and I let out a little scream that I claimed was fully masculine, and she claims was the scream of a little girl. I also tried walking to a gas station for fun in the middle of a 36-inch blizzard in 2013. I made it about 60 yards before I imagined getting stuck and killed by a plow and turned around. To fully appreciate the background of this story, I need to give you information regarding where I lived. You see, we were in a temporary living situation. Our house had burnt to the ground and we'd lost everything. But fortunately my parents had insurance and they put us up in a temporary living situation. I had my own room as the only child, and my parents had a different room. I was about 15 at the time, and that place always gave me the creeps, for real. I don't think a day would go by where I found myself in that area where I wouldn't be terrified. The place itself wasn't too bad, but the situation and location weren't the best. But still, we knew it wouldn't last forever, so we didn't get too comfortable. Except for maybe in one aspect. You see, the clerk or admin guy who worked behind the counter of this motel was quite nice, and whenever I'd get back from school, he'd always be on shift and try to strike up a conversation with me. Now, because we're living in a motel, he obviously has the key and can go into our room, which I personally find a bit creepy. So I started putting the do not disturb signs up, but my parents kept telling me to take it off because otherwise our room wouldn't be cleaned, which, to be fair, was necessary. A few weeks pass and I'm still not feeling good. There's just something about this place that gives me the creeps. Every morning, I also get some free complimentary breakfast before I have to go to school. I remember this was a Wednesday. I tended to rush my homework in the morning, grab a few bits to eat, and plow through everything I possibly could, and think of excuses if I don't have enough time to finish. Now, the way this is set out is that the banqueting hall is right after the front desk, and from where I was sitting, I had a clear view of where the creeper guy was. So he gets a guest, they come and talk to him, and shortly after they leave, he leaves as well. I just assume it was something related to that family, and that his business was needed elsewhere. But I was wrong. I never saw him return, and when I went back up to my room, in order to just finish grabbing the rest of my books, did I get a very uncomfortable feeling. I stayed quiet for a minute and could have sworn I heard breathing coming from the closet. It was the first time in my life that I felt true fear, and panic was engulfing me. I stood there stunned, unsure of what my next move should be. I looked at my wristwatch and noticed that time was running out, and that if I didn't leave soon, I wouldn't be able to make it to school on time and catch my bus. So, full of trepidation, did I creep forward to the closet and swing open the door, only to be met with the strange guy. I jumped, let out an audible scream, and he let out a scream as well. I was furious. I wasn't sure what he was doing in the room, but I was very, very upset. I scream for my parents, who come in from the other room, and yell at the guy, who is still in the closet, as he hasn't come out yet. My dad starts yelling at him, asking what the hell he's doing spying on a 14-year-old girl, to which he has no reply. After about 10 minutes of an onslaught of words from my father, does he get up from his crouched position, apologize, and walk back to the front desk, this time with a queue lagging behind. My dad tells me to go to school, so I do, and when I get back, the guy is gone. He never came back to work, and my dad refused to tell me what went down that day. But I have a good idea that my dad gave him more than a piece of his mind. So creepy peeping Tom, who was in my closet, let's not meet again. And I really hope you didn't see more than I wanted you to, weirdo. A few years ago, I was down on my luck in the relationship scene. My girlfriend of 3 years had just broken up with me because she had started dating her boss, and I came to find out that it had been going on for the last 2 years. Isn't that just peachy? Anyway, I join Tinder, something I'm not proud of, and I try to connect with a whole bunch of girls in the hopes that I can at least find someone decent while I'm feeling down. Don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for a quick hookup, but I really wanted someone to fill that void from the previous relationship. I wanted someone to love. That's when I connected with Kimberly. She seemed very nice during the messages, and we lived very close to each other. Too close, in fact. And we agreed to meet up at a local restaurant a week ahead. I was getting very excited. We were always messaging, and within a very short space of time, it started to feel really serious. We went on our date and got on very well. And before long, she started telling me that she loved me. Now, I'm not sure how other people feel about this, but to me, it's a very big deal to admit this, and I certainly wasn't in a position to say it back to her, something which she took very badly. She asked why I didn't say it back, and me, being the straight-up guy, told her that I just wasn't feeling the same way, but that if she would let our relationship grow and nurture, I'm sure that in time I'd feel the same way, and that people move on at different rates and yada yada. She was very unhappy, but in her credit, tried her best to not make me feel uncomfortable, and we carried on with our date that night. A few weeks later, things had heated up a bit more. We were moving on into the next level, if you know what I mean, and she ended up staying over at my place that night. I woke up at about 3 a.m. to use the toilet, and when I look, she's not in bed with me. Now, this being the first time we've done the nasties, I wondered if she'd just gone home. I wasn't entirely sure of the parameters of this with her. So I look around, and she's nowhere to be seen on the top floor. I go down the stairs, and the smell of fire catches my nostrils. I look outside into my garden, and she's taken this metal bin and started a fire. I run up to her and ask her what the hell she's doing, and she is burning loads of my things. She looks at me with this cold, dead stare and says, "You can't have any of this. That's why you don't love me, because you keep things that she gave you in the house." I was absolutely horrified. I don't even know where she made this assumption from. Things like my CDs, DVDs, hell, even my iPhone, and a whole bunch of other stuff were now melting away in this fire. I was horrified, and I told her that she needed to go and that I was calling the police and the fire department. The fire was put out pretty quickly, and I never spoke to her again. She definitely had several screws loose, and I hope that no other man falls for her madness. I am a mail carrier for the Postal Service. The route I am currently assigned to is a very rural route. Some of the homes are miles apart. A lot of farmland and cattle. This one particular home I deliver to has been on vacation mail hold for about a month. When the date of the hold was up, I deliver their mail per protocol. Well, 2.5 weeks have gone by, and no one had emptied the mailbox. Keep in mind, this is a very small town, and I am only one of 3 employees at the post office. I asked the clerk if they had maybe called about holding their mail longer, and I had just not got the memo. She then related to me something that happened around this time last year. Apparently, this time last year, the wife took a restraining and protection order out against her husband and disappeared for a few months. When the mail hold was over, it was another 2 months before the husband came into the office to get his mail. The wife soon returned to the home, but she is hardly ever seen. The clerk said that she thought the husband had killed the wife or something like that. Well, as of early February, when their mail went on hold, both of them were alive and well. The clerk told me what kind of vehicle the man drives and that he is always towing a camper. I decided to drive down the long gravel lane away from the main road and their mailbox to their house. I just wanted to see if anyone was home and asked them to please empty their mailbox if they wanted to continue to get mail. As I drove up, I just got the weirdest vibe from the house. There was no truck or camper and no other cars. I pulled up to the very large 2-story plantation-style home, something that isn't very common where I live. I shut off my truck, and today was a fairly warm spring day, and I'd heard birds and cattle and horses all day long. Here in the driveway, there was nothing but silence. It was so heavy. It took me a few seconds to gather myself and actually get out of the truck. I'm not usually a scaredy cat, but there is something seriously unsettling about that house. I walked to the door just in case someone was home and knocked. I had a feeling that there was no one home, but I just wanted to cover all of my bases before making a work-related decision. When no one answered, I rang the doorbell for good measure and listened. It was deafeningly quiet. And then I heard a noise. It sounded like someone was tapping on the glass of the window in the door. I was looking right at it though, and there was nothing there and no one in the house that I could see. I quickly walked back to my truck and got the hell out of there. As I was tearing back down the driveway, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw a woman in the second-story window above the front door. I about started crying. I am not an emotional person. I don't know what the hell happened today. I've been thinking about it almost all day. I just can't shake the feeling that something is wrong. I also called the police and was informed that the home and property are vacant. The wife left and is staying on the other side of the country with family, keeping her exact location confidential so that the husband doesn't try to contact or go after her. The husband cannot be within a certain distance to the home and is currently staying at a campground 50 miles away in his trailer. Seems to be just a repeat of last year. But then who the hell was that woman on the window?